These are federal law enforcement agents in Portland. Their stated purpose for being there is to protect federal property from being damaged. To that end, they've tear gassed, flashbanged, and abducted protesters, putting them in rented vans. These tactics, at least to the degree that the federal agents are using them, are not typically seen on American streets, and as we'll show in this video, they've gone beyond both conventional crowd control and beyond the limits placed on local police.
The clarity of the area by the Justice Center. A cloud too thick to see through.
Protests over police brutality in Portland have taken place daily for more than 50 days. They started after George Floyd's death at the hands of Minneapolis police officers in late May and have mainly taken place here in downtown Portland near a federal U.S. District Courthouse and a county justice center which houses the Portland Police Bureau's chief headquarters. The protests gradually became more tense as police used increasingly aggressive tactics to disperse protesters.
Things being thrown directly at people, in traffic, gassing traffic again.
The introduction of federal agents, ostensibly to protect federal property and monuments, created even more tension.
2 days ago, leftist radicals in Portland, Oregon, ripped down a statue of George Washington and wrapped it in an American flag and set the American flag on fire.
The federal agents in Portland are a hodgepodge of Department of Homeland Security forces like Immigrations and Customs Enforcement and Customs and Border Protection Services, as well as the U.S. Marshals Service groups. A leaked DHS memo published by the New York Times suggests that many of these teams in Portland aren't properly trained in riot control or mass demonstrations.
The feds come out and just open fire and just shoot as much as they can into the crowd with impact and like munitions. And they're gassing too, but they're just opening fire the same way they would with a rifle because like they're not really trained in using this stuff.
This is Robert Evans, a reporter with our partners at Bellingcat who's been on the ground in Portland since protests first started and has watched them escalate. Likewise, he's also seen the escalating response from law enforcement.
The night that particularly highlighted it to me was the 4th of July.
Fireworks.
The feds are shooting out grenades and pouring tear gas out into the streets, and it was like the only way this could get more intense is if people were shooting live rounds.
In June, Portland police were ordered to use less tear gas by a judge. That order has since been extended, but it doesn't apply to federal agents who have deployed massive amounts of tear gas during protests.
God, a ladle of tear gas just being kicked in.
We analyzed about 14 hours of Evans footage covering protests in Portland over the last 3 weeks. With that, we were able to identify at least 50 uses of tear gas against demonstrators. All of this in the month following the court order that banned tear gas use by Portland police, except in life-threatening situations. We reached out to Homeland Security to ask about their use of tear gas in Portland, and the department refused to comment. But it's not just about the federal agents' use of tear gas.
God.
They don't use flashbangs the way you're supposed to use flashbangs. They throw them into the middle of groups of people like a normal hand grenade and catch people on fire sometimes as a result. They shoot people directly with grenades like you do with the grenades that are meant to kill people. Like they act as soldiers do.
The flashbangs he's talking about are low-roll distraction devices manufactured by Defense Technology. While not exclusive to federal police, Evans says in Portland they've been used much more liberally and, more worryingly, incorrectly.
Firing flashbangs, gas into the crowd. A lot of flashbangs.
Portland's police has its own documented issues with police brutality, something protesters in Portland have tried to keep in focus. But local leaders claim the expanded federal presence in Portland has made matters worse rather than alleviate the situation. And given the president's claim that Homeland Security is needed to protect federal property across the United States, other cities are facing a new reality of federal agents with a local presence.